right, guys, so our day is filled with 4 winterization stops today, but the day doesn't start there. It starts here in our retail gardens. So we have to blow out all the leaves. It's fall. We got to check the features for proper water, because sometimes with all those leaves, they get clogged up a little bit. Take a look at the fish and then load up our van with everything we're going to need for all 4 stops today. So follow along. This should be fun.
So this morning we're just checking all the features, we're topping them all off. Everything was really low this morning. From over the weekend, you know, it's been really dry, so we haven't had much rain. So the fountain urn here, it was barely running when we got here, so I'm just topping this off. This one over here, it was the same thing, these little bowls here. There were so many leaves just sitting in the bottom right here that all the water that was spilling over from this bowl here, it was just all trailing out. Since this is a really small area for it, there's not a lot of room for error. So we just kind of blew out all the leaves. Drew did this morning, and then as he was doing that, I was following him around and just kind of running the hose and all of the features to make sure everything has enough water. But everything's starting to look pretty good now. Like I said, we just got to top everything off. The skeleton over here, my hose doesn't quite reach, so I have to do it from a distance or grab a bucket, but I just didn't feel like grabbing a bucket this morning, and it takes about 2 minutes, so it doesn't take long.
What you got there?
So these are our extra large, long gloves, because this time of year, as we are winterizing our water features and ponds, we're sticking our hand in that cold, cold water. So these just keep us a little bit warmer and most importantly, dry. So we're not miserable all day. So I'm gonna bring these out. This way inventory stays correct. So this system, it's a newer system that we're using this year. Love it. We used to fill out a notebook, and now just look up the product, scan it in, comes right up. We save the order, close it out. Just now we're good to go. Nothing starts your day better than these little cheese crackers. So, welcome to the van. We're on our way to our first of 4 stops. We're doing 4 winterization services today. So, we have a little bit of a drive this morning, but that's just because the first house is a little farther away. But from there, we'll be starting to work our way back towards the store. So when we get done with our last stop, it won't be as much of a drive back. But we're heading up to Sussex County, and like Drew said, 4 winterization stops. So the one that we have up in Sussex County, it's a really, really big pond, but it actually stays running all winter. So we're going to be winterizing at Oakville and some standalone fountains that he has. So that'll be nice to see, because you guys will be able to see a nice pond, as well as just something else that we'll be doing there today.
Oh, that was awkward. That was weird. You owe me a Coke, Jinx. You owe me a Coke.
No backsies.
No, we had a small mishap with our GPS, and it was hard to read, so I had to explain to the 80s guy over here that, you know, it was just a couple buttons to fix it. But then we got onto the topic of MapQuest, and when we had to actually print out directions, and how fun that used to be when you had to miss a turn and then you didn't know where you were and you had to backtrack. So I luckily didn't have to deal with that for too much of my childhood.
Yeah, no, but that's how I got places. Yeah. And I turned out just fine after drinking from the hose.
So stop number 1, this is a standard winterization. So it's a small pond, as you can see. We have the waterfall running. We're just making sure everything's working correctly. We want to make sure that pump is working before we actually shut the whole thing down. So we have a reference for next season. When we come back and reopen everything, we'll know that the pump was working when it was shut down. So real quick, we blew off a lot of the leaves that were just piled up on the netting. We'll retighten the net so it's nice and taut throughout the winter time. There are no fish in this pond, but we are going to make sure that the aerator is on and running as well, because we want to help prevent any freezing over the winter time. These lilies that are down in here, they're going to die off since the water's getting colder, so we're going to cut all of those back and then disconnect the check valve from our actual pump and the plumbing line. We will blow out all of the water that is in the plumbing line so that nothing freezes underground, cracks anything, and causes any further issues. And then we're actually going to take a cap. We're going to cap the top of the waterfall so that nothing can get back into that line after we blow everything out. And then at the bottom where the check valve was, same thing, we're going to use a elbow just to elevate that opening so that if anything, snow, rain over the course of the winter time raises that water level, it's not going to backfeed back into the plumbing line from the skimmer side. So Drew's going up there now. He's going to start taking some of the netting off of the top just so that we can get access into that opening of the waterfall. But everything looks good right now. It's running, like I said. Everything component-wise seems to be working correctly. So we're just going to start doing all of the things that we need to do and get this customer all ready for the winter time.
We want to check this for proper function, so you'll know if it's working or not if you hear that flap going back and forth. So that's good. We're going to just kind of clean this off real quick. This gets stored out of the feature indoors. The pump we leave sitting right in the skimmer.
So we're all wrapped up here. You guys can see the pond is off, waterfall's off. We capped our line up at the very top. Drew sucked out all the water that was underground in our plumbing. And then our skimmer over here, we disconnected our pump, our check valve, and our filter media are all set aside in a bag for the customer to store over the winter time, so that we know next season, when we come back in the spring, that everything will all be in one place. We'll know if anything needs to be replaced from filter material, we'll have extra, but we just like to have everything all in one place so the customer knows where it is, we know where it is. But aerator is on. That's going to help prevent our freezing over the winter time. But this is all set, ready to go. It was very simple setup here today. The next stop that we have is going to be a little bit different. The pond is much, much bigger. This is a very small pond. This next one is about 30 by 40 feet, so it's really big. Customer actually leaves it running all year. He just has some standalone fountains that we're going to winterize, and as well as an autofill. So you guys will stay tuned and see what that looks like.
The pond is already netted for the fall, but we're here for a partial winter shutdown. And so he leaves this netting up all year. And this part of New Jersey, if it does snow, they can get a whole bunch. So we need to make sure that we have plenty of this netting anchored in on both sides. That side, it's a little short, but since we have extra, we're just gonna shift that netting all the way over, anchor it in real good. This way, if we do get that snow, it's gonna kind of weigh it down. He uses this rope to keep supporting it. And then as the snow melts, it just falls on through. The netting just eventually rebounds back up. But while we're here, the customer asked us to take care of this, so that's what we'll do. So once we get our nettings resituated and anchored back down, I'm gonna head up to that wetland because he does run that part of the system all year. We came upon it, we do see that there is a little bit of some algae buildup, so we'll scoop that stuff out. I'll trim back some of those aquatic plants that are also up there. And then I'm gonna add in a treatment of cold water bacteria and 2 muck tabs, which will help kind of break down all of that excess organics that are in the pond, because he's got kind of a large fish load. So we want to make sure that going into winter time, there's not that excessive amount of buildup in the system that could potentially stress the fish out. So once we get this done, we'll move on up there to that wetland. I'll show you what I mean. Algae is not always a bad thing. A lot of people say, oh, I've got string algae. But a little bit up in your wetland is actually a good sign that you've got a healthy ecosystem here. I know it's a little bit unsightly, but we try to encourage people to leave a little bit up here. But right now, since we're here doing a visit, we're just gonna skim out some of it. And I'm gonna treat this with a muck tab here, and then I'm gonna put one down in the pond itself to help kind of encourage that bacteria to go to town and eat up a lot of this organics, so it's not sitting in the water all winter. Okay, muck tabs. They look like little hockey pucks, but they're actually just pressed forms of concentrated bacteria. So it's basically like a time release pill that releases beneficial enzymes, bacterias. I'm putting one up here into the wetland. The other one I'm going to put down into the pond. The goal of adding these into a system like this, because we have a large volume of water, is really going to help just break down all of that excess stuff. As you can see, there is some already in this wetland. It's been running all season with a heavy fish load. They also get a lot of sun, so this filter's been working overtime. I just want to help it along through the winter, because the customer does run this all winter long. So our goal by putting them in is to just help the system by breaking down those organics so it can do what it does and polish that water and keep it nice and clean.
Can't believe you did this to me, baby. I can't control. Set me free. I see you through the window. I can't breathe.
All right, guys, we're here at our third stop. So this is going to be a pretty simple winterization. The setup of this existing pond is a little bit different than your standard ecosystem. So they have a bit of like a wetland pooling area as their filter, and then they have a submersible aquaforce pump down in the pond that circulates the water through. So in this particular winterization, we are going to remove our netting and then disconnect that pump and use that as our bubbler. Just for winter, it's just like an de-icer. There are some goldfish and frogs in the pond, so we just need to make sure there's a small opening should this start to get cold and freeze, that those fish aren't going to suffocate and can make it through the winter. So let me get this fired up. I got to clean up around our workspace. All right, so we disconnected our pump and we're leaving that as our bubbler for over the winter, because I mentioned there is some fish and some frogs inside this water feature. But we also noticed that there's all of this new construction really close to the edge of the pond. So we noticed the water level was low. And then as we're going around tightening this netting over the pond, we see that the water is actually just escaping out the side. And we can see that in this area, there is liner. But I think during this construction, they must have shifted around some of these rocks. So we're making notation of this. I'm going to let the customer know that come springtime, we're going to have to address this. And hopefully there's enough liner from the old edge of the pond where we can pick it up, make some adjustments or corrections. Otherwise, we might have to do some patching or seaming. But for right now, the pond is essentially shut down and ready to just kind of sit here for the winter time. So it's not common, but it is something that comes up, especially when you're doing projects really close to the edge of your feature.
This one's all done. It's time to go to the last one.
So Last stop of the day is going to be a winterization on a pondless. This one is super cool just because of the location of the yard, his property in general, and then the feature itself is super cool, super unique. And the way that they had to actually construct this, if you look right there, you can see that that's an elevation change of about 10 to 13 feet there. And we actually rented a lull, which is like a big forklift, to lift up our small machine and all the materials through that gate into the backyard. So when we get up there and you see the view, you'll understand why this property is so cool, and the feature itself, just an awesome accent to the backyard. All right, so I mentioned down in the driveway how super special this water feature is, not only because of the backyard and the setting that we have just next to where this feature is, but check out how many cascades and waterfalls and different ways that the water is twisting and turning in a very, very small space. I mean, from the start to the back is maybe only 12 feet in depth, and an elevation change of almost 3 feet. So there is so much going on. We have 2 separate variable flow pumps. They're AquaSurge 2 to 4,000. Right now, they're both at full speed. Or you can see how much water, how much action. We've got some churning, we've got white water, we've got all kinds of different twists and turns. But this one is super cool.